Welcome, guys. We have Cheri Beltramo, somebody that I've known now almost 20 years, that long, and someone I very much admire, and Teisha admires, and that never happens.
Never.
So that's a big deal. But we're just talking today about marriage. Obviously, it's our favorite thing to talk about. Kids, life, choices, husbands,
Raising
intimacy.
kids, yeah, all of it.
And Ashley.
And Ashley. You'll find out who Ashley is.
Ashley.
Do I say anything?
Oh my God, we're just being normal.
Oh, jerking around.
Do you want to get your headphones? Well, no.
Crystal takes her shirt off. Stick around. Should we say it at the same time?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Jerkin Around. A podcast with Teisha and Crystal. Maybe we're meant to be on video. Okay. Tell us a little bit about like your background and the life coaching and your nonprofit and kind of your mission.
Okay. So yeah, well, I have a few odd jobs. So
okay.
I'm a barista, about one day a week now, out in Vistancia, and just love being part of the community and mixing with people. So that's been like just fun.
I always want to be a
That's
barista.
Crystal.
Yes.
She always
it's my like
said
dream
that.
job.
And a hairdresser.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
And I like want to be one so bad.
Yeah.
I thought about you the other day. I'm like, sure it is. I could do it.
Yeah.
I could do it.
Oh yeah.
You can fit it in.
So that, and then we do life coaching and mentoring on a charitable wing, because we just feel like some of the people who really need it, especially like we found like our kids' age, they're at the age where they're going to college or deciding if they should, or graduating college, or for a lot of the athletes, just the identity that gets lost when sports is done. But they can't really afford a life coach or so we do that and love that. We love but honestly any age, because
I love that.
People need help, and
they do.
Life coaching just moves you forward. It's a lot of times allowing the person to look from different perspectives.
Totally.
Something and get through it. So I love that. And then just doing life with our kids. We both have moms alive who we love to spend time with and pour into. So
I love that.
A lot of different generational things.
Yeah, I think that's so important.
But
I love that.
So Cheri, we have Cheri. I'm missing my mic. Cheri, come on.
I'm excited.
So there's so many things that we're intrigued about you, and we sat down after Allie. Allie's the one that told us to have guests on the podcast, who was on last week.
Yeah.
And then Teisha and I sat down and said, okay, who are some people that we would want to have on? And most people one of us is more picky than the other one about people. And like if we're intrigued by them or not.
Yeah, she was throwing people out. I'm all, no.
Yeah. I think I'm intrigued by more.
She's intrigued by more
by
people.
all different people. Like we always say that I have a few friends that are different, and I just like all the different. But no, she was very selective.
I'm a little selective.
Very selective. But you were someone that we both were like, Cheri is so intriguing. Not only because you're a strong Christian woman, but you just live so balanced and in everything, and you love people, you live it the right way. But what we both went to the marriage class, and this podcast, we talk about marriage a lot, and that's like a big passion of ours, is to share the good, the bad, and the ugly about marriage. And that was one of the things we both talked about yesterday, talking about you with Dana, was Kyle knew Brian, your husband, because he was his chaplain at GCU.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't go into that, I don't want to be weird, but Kyle was Mormon back then too. Well, kind of, Jack. But anyways, Brian was someone that really probably stirred up something in him. You know, we say plant the seed.
Yeah.
And when we ran into him at our marriage class, Kyle was like, oh my gosh, that's the chaplain. This, that. And Kyle was more, when we first started dating, not anti-church, I guess, but when Kyle and I first started dating, he said, my wife will take my kids to church, because that's what his mom did.
Yeah.
She took the kids to church. Bonnie was raised Mormon, and Lance was raised Catholic, so Bonnie took the kids to the Mormon church, and Lance stayed home and watched football, and that worked for them. But at CCV, Don always said, the man's a spiritual leader of the family. So when we were dating, I was like, that's great if that's what you want, but I just won't marry someone that isn't on the same page, and we're all going to go to church as a family. but I didn't want to push that on Kyle. So as we started dating, he started asking to come to church on his own, this and that. But it was still early on when we got engaged and everything. I would say, looking back especially, he wasn't near as strong of a Christian as he is now. Back when we ran into Brian at the marriage class, long story. But you go to this class, I don't know if you did the same way we did.
Same class.
We did, where it's like 8 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And there's different speakers and you do these devotionals, and that was all great. But you and Brian's marriage talk, we were talking about the other day. I still use so many things from it. Like, it was the best marriage talk because it was, and I think I even take some of that with you. Anytime you talk, and Cheri now is, what would you call what you do at Liberty? Because I'm obsessed with it.
Like a character coach.
Coach, and they have a nonprofit that they started as well. But she comes and talks to the cheerleaders at Liberty as well. And one of the things I noticed about you there too is you're always so real. And that's something Teisha and I really strive to be.
Yeah.
Sometimes a little too real, but
Well, at the marriage class, remember they were talking, Brian was talking about the Victoria's Secret lingerie.
Yeah.
But it was so real.
So real.
And refreshing.
Yes. And that was the first time I've ever, we weren't married yet, and no one really talks about that it's going to be hard. People say that. It's hard. Right. But they don't really go into why it's hard or how it's hard. And there's so many things that you guys talked about that day that I still sit by. So those are the things I kind of want to start with. Yeah. Is marriage. And for me, I think one of the smartest things, there's a few. 3 that stand out. Teisha likes the laundry stuff, but
no.
One of the things you taught us was when you're dealing with each other's families, which when Kyle and I got married, even sometimes still, it's one of our hardest things. Is we have 2 very close families. They're very involved. They live close. We want to be at all the things. But you guys told us that his family, his job, my family, my job. Meaning, if I have a conflict that I have to discuss with my family, it's my job to do it. It shouldn't be Kyle telling my brother no. It should be me dealing with my family, him dealing with his family. That was one of the smartest things.
Yeah.
We didn't always follow it, but when we didn't follow it, we remembered why the whole family's not talking to me. It's because he should have been the one to do it.
And I think one of the things we really, we still believe in that is, you should be the advocate for you and Kyle to your family of here's what we're choosing. But if you're saying it to your family, here's what we're choosing. Right. It comes across so much better than if he's this is what we're choosing. They're well, Kyle's bossing her around.
Yeah, or totally. That's totally the thing.
So,
yeah, I love that. And then making decisions together, united front, before you go into a lot of things. I think looking back, early in our marriage, that was one of the things we could have done a lot better. Was really uniting before we go to battle. Before you have to talk to the other person's family, really knowing your why together, not just hey, I don't think we should go. Okay, I'll tell them.
Right.
Because there would be the thing where Kyle's mom would say something, he'd be like, yeah, sure, I'll talk to Crystal. That sounds good. And then he'll call her back, we can't go on Friday. And it's clear
it's obvious
that it was me, you know? And he's just regurgitating it, but not she's why? Well, we can't go on Friday, and it's no, just tell her, remember, we have the plans or whatever.
Well, Ben throws me under the bus to everybody because he's afraid to have confrontation, and I am the one that is more confrontational, so he'll be his parents will say something and he's oh yeah, okay, that works, let me talk to Teisha, and knowing he doesn't want to do it, and then he comes to me and he's yeah, I don't want to do this, blah blah blah, and then he goes to them and he's yeah, Teisha said no, and then I'm hello, and then they think I'm the jerk, and I'm no, it's you know?
Right.
So
yeah. So no, it just, it helps a lot, and I want to raise our kids to do that too, where it's I know. We love our own. And if they come and say something, you can be okay, I gotta respect this new, union that's going on. And that needs to work. So,
that's a big thing too. I feel I do think my mother-in-law, if she sees it, especially now that more kids are married than we were the first, when she can tell something's getting tense for the couple, she is good about pulling back because marriage is first. Yeah. But early on, I think because we were first, it was kind of just mind. Everybody mind. Whatever we say. Right. Yeah. What were you going to say, ma'am?
I was just saying, how long, for our listeners, how long have you guys been married?
Okay. So this year is going to be 30 in October.
Yeah. Wow. So that's a big one. Because not a lot of people make it.
That long, especially today.
Well, and honestly, what's interesting is my parents, made it to like, I'm honestly not even positive, like 32 or something.
Really?
So I know for Brian and I, like, we just want to rack up like good times and good years more than the years, because we've gotten marriage counseling over the years, because I said, like, we could keep going. I'm not going to quit on the marriage.
Right.
Like, I'm committed, strongly believe we made a covenant before the Lord. Like, I'm not backing out of that. But like, I need to like you.
Yeah.
And I want to do this well.
Like good years, not just years and misery. Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm saying we have a lot. It's just like, I'm fighting for us and for a good marriage. And it gets hard sometimes to work through this stuff, but I'm like, I want to work it now, like in the moment. And I think sometimes he's like, can we just let that go?
Yeah, especially guys.
Yeah.
But then you're resentful or you're carrying something.
Yeah. And I think girls, sometimes the women perspective is like big picture of like, well, what's it going to be like 20 years from now?
Yeah.
Or when we're raising the grandkids and we're all like, that's kind of my goal, is that long-term picture, and to be fighting for our kids to know, like, okay, mom and dad argue, but they're together and they're for each other and they're for us and they're for a legacy and all that stuff. So
I love
that's a good question. So have you always been open in front of your kids, arguing in front of them?
Yeah. Yeah, which I
know that because I wonder sometimes.
Oh, really?
Ben and we kind of fight in front of the kids.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if I've told this on the podcast, but I think you and I have talked about this, and I was going to say the same thing. I sat with a bunch of girlfriends from college one day at a dinner, and we talked about if your parents fought in front of you. And there was 4 of us. 3 of them, his parents were divorced. I was the only one that had parents still married. And I said, my parents fought all the time. It was no big deal. I knew that they would always work it out. All 3 of them never saw their parents fight. And all 3 of their parents are divorced. Yeah. And so for them, it was like out of nowhere, first of all, that they got divorced. Second of all, they never saw working through it. I knew when my parents argued, they weren't getting divorced. Right. Like, I knew it's just like you and I argue. Like, in a relationship, you're gonna argue. There's no passion. And I think that's what a lot of the other 3, there was no more passion. Yeah. Nothing to argue about. They both kind of checked out.
Or somebody's like,
resentful. They talked about that at church, and then years later they're done with it. They're speaking up. That's like some celebrity. I want to be happy. Kyle Richards. Okay. We talk about her sometimes, you know, because I watch The Housewives. But she's saying now it's her turn to be happy. They've been married like 27 years. Why weren't you happy the whole time? Right. Why'd you wait 27 years and then be done?
And why is it a turn? Like, why does it have to be one or the other and not both?
Yeah.
Like you're happy and I'm happy. Like we should be all happy.
Everyone's happy.
So I'm intrigued. So you have always fought in front of the kids.
Disagree.
Yes, and like I'm honestly not proud of that, because here is what I would say the premise is. Brian and I were not raised in Christian homes. Like, and I think
both of you weren't.
Right, we're not. And so intriguing. Yeah. I mean, I was raised in a very religious home, so I was in churches quite often, but it was never like the Bible. We never had Bible. We never did Bible. None of that. But what I would say is we had the thought of like, okay, we became Christians in college, and it's like, that is the missing piece. We are 2 people who love Jesus. How hard could this be? Right, you know, like it won't be that hard for us, or we know what to do, or we have Jesus. And it's like, and it's hard because we are still very human and just selfish. Like, at the end of the day, like, there can be times that I want to justify it or mask it, but at the end of the day, it's my pride, it's my selfishness, it's what I want that rears its ugly head. So yes, so the kids have definitely seen us argue, and Brian's Italian, and then I basically was on track to go to law school, and so I can just
win an argument.
Yeah. And so
I know people like that.
So you're a good debater.
Yeah, so I could like logically argue
Yeah,
things, and then
At times we're just passion.
And then I found out way later in marriage, like when Enneagram came out, there's like Brian is a 3, which is the competitive one. So he would always be like, "You just need to win it." I was like, "No, I kind of want to just talk and be heard. I'm not about winning." And he's like, "Why would you not want to win?"
Right. Like that's the way his brain is wired.
Yeah. In fact, really funny story to prove that he was an Enneagram 3. I'm a 1, which is a lot like logic based and stuff, and methodic. But he's like, "How come you're a 1?" I'm like, "I didn't pick the numbers."
Why are you a 3?
I'm like, "But that proves you're a 3."
That's
Why are
interesting.
you-
I wonder what I am. I don't even
No,
know.
I've done it before. I think I am a 1 and a 3. And I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
And a 7, I think.
I bet she's an 8.
What's that?
We should
I
do
don't
it.
even know.
We need to do it at work.
Yeah, I'm not into I never check those things or
I love
the horoscope. I used
Well,
to
this
long
isn't a
time ago.
horoscope.
No, but I'm saying like those type
Yes.
of things. Like I'm
Here's-
always just like, you know.
Here's the really interesting thing, because it taught me a lot about my kids, because Brinley's youth leader was actually the first one who introduced it, and she was pairing girls together for like summer camp based on stuff.
That's so smart.
Yeah.
And so I was like reading Brinley's. I'm like, whoa, this is
so
like
you.
why you think the way you do. But what's really interesting about it is they say like that's actually not who you are. So like I am a person who likes like systems and methods because in childhood they weren't there. And
Gotcha.
so to survive, I created them.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not actually who you are.
It's not like how you're born.
It's how you cope.
It's how you cope. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes me more interested.
Oh yeah.
It's-
You just
you know,
haven't Sherry everything.
I just want to eat it up with a
Yeah,
spoon.
she doesn't like that.
I'm also, let's talk about how you and Brett, no, you know, like I just want to stay here for hours. I love it so much.
Something else you just reminded me of. In that class again, you talked about winning an argument. There's a 10 and a 1 on a scale. And I remember this. Kyle and I used this for years and we've forgotten about it.
Yeah.
And you just reminded me about it and it helped us a lot. Like, I think Brian, this is crazy. This is 15 years ago. Because we're married 15 and a half years now.
Is there
And
something there?
Yeah, hair.
I
Can
keep
you see
seeing
it?
Well, I keep seeing
Oh, it's driving me
you.
crazy.
Like, look.
But we used to use it, and I remember you talked about getting a pool fence, I think. And it was like, you guys kept arguing, and it was a 10. Then you finally did, is it a 10 for you or a 1? And like, how you win an argument, if you can kind of elaborate on that. Because I forgot about that, and that did help us. I was like, this is a 10 for me. And he's like, oh, I'm just arguing, but it's a 3 for me.
Yes.
It's not like,
Let's
you know,
give
He
a
should
quick
concede.
yes, because it's more important for me.
and the quick example is just like you can have an opinion on something, but at the end of the day, it's not really make or break. We were deciding on a pool fence, and we had young kids, and I'm just like, I have people over all the time, and it is a deal breaker. Like I just don't want to have that pressure. And he was like, oh, well, the aesthetic. And so I was like, it is a 10 for me. And he goes, wouldn't you always say that it's a 10 though, just so you get your way? And I'm like,
Because he's a
then we
3,
had-
trying to win.
Yes. And then I'm kind of like, I'm insulted the fact that you think I would do that. Great. But it did help to know. And then like we were arguing about the front yard grass, whether we were going to do like rock or grass. And he's like, I really want grass. And I have all these logical reasons, like a lot financial, why it doesn't make sense to have front yard grass. And there's a big green belt, like 2 doors down. We can just use that. And he said, I just have memories of playing like wiffle ball with my dad on the front yard grass. And I want to do that like with our kids. Like, okay, that's a 10 for you.
Yeah,
I'll give that a 10.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, want
I was
that
giving
for
it a
you.
10 too.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm like giving all these financial reasons, and then when he explained the heart of it,
Yeah.
I'm for that. Yeah,
That's a really good point. It's like getting down to the why you're arguing your point in the argument, because usually you get so heated about just winning, you forget to explain like why it's important.
Yes.
So I really like that.
Yeah.
Like
No.
vacations are like a 10 for me.
Yep.
Because
Same for me.
we went on them. I love my parents. Everybody knows we talk about them a lot. But this goes along with the podcast. We went to casinos a lot for the apple and the tree. That's where we would go. We'd go to Laughlin or we'd go to Vegas. Again, so crazy how my dad ended up passing in Vegas. That's like our family place.
Yeah.
But we never did a lot of like, I'd always see the other kids going to the beach every summer or like all these places and these traditions. So now like, that's a 10 for me. Kyle going on all the vacations. So to me, he's like, let's get a truck or let's get something else. Like it's like a 4 for him where it's a 10 for me.
Yeah.
But I can remind
him.
him.
Are like the financial reasons, and then yours like, no, we're making memories.
Yeah, and like if you tell me no, it triggers something.
Yeah.
In me.
And I think that's such a great word is like, what is being triggered in you? You
Yes.
know what? Because if we get to that, it takes so much because sometimes we would go like just round and round, right? Think of something, bring something in.
Yeah, you're right.
And it's like, man, what is at the core? What's being triggered in me? What's being
triggered is such a good word. Triggered in you last night when you called Ben and Ashley.
Well,
Sorry,
that's a story for another time. So I have a question. So now that you've been married 30 years almost,
yes.
so would you say that you have figured out a way to disagree, argue, more, what's the right word?
Respectfully?
No, like
without calling him an Ashley?
More like getting
Clearly.
it resolved quickly.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
effectively. Do you feel like you guys, or do you feel like you fight less now that your kids are grown? Like, just talk about how you guys have.
And your kids are older now.
Conflict resolution. Yeah. Has that gotten better the more years you're married, or do you still go your rounds? And
I definitely wouldn't say rounds.
Yeah.
I definitely think we've figured out how to be a lot more considerate with our words. I mean, early on, I did like so many wrong things. Like I would be so subtle about not so subtle about slamming cupboards or like, okay, I'm
the door. I like the door.
And this is all Ben right here.
Yeah.
And the same.
Yeah.
And finally I was just like, okay, this is just me not standing up and saying I'm upset about something. One of the things that's been really helpful that I've learned is, do we feel like the other person is a safe place to bring our opinion or bring our hurt? And so I think Brian, for a long time, I didn't feel safe sometimes bringing a hurt or a problem to him because he would either like get defensive or take it really personally. And I didn't know how to not make him take it personally.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, I'm thinking the big picture. This has nothing to do with you, really. Like, it's just, I'm trying to get us all on this track over here.
Yeah. He's making it about him. Yeah, yeah.
And so he would take things and I'm like, and then I would get frustrated.
And then you would close up.
Yeah. And so I think we've gotten better over the years about really knowing like the layers and the depth and some of the triggers. One of the things that we discovered was just like the body language. Again, Brian, I think being Italian and knowing like the more I hear about his childhood and like things like his dad did, it's like we're all a product of what we grew up in, which is why also I'm just like, I want our kids to see better because that's really like what they're seeing on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Is what they get accustomed to. You know?
That's so
it got convicting to me because I thought like for a while, like, okay, I'm just a strong, independent woman. But like I was kind of showing our son, well, as the man, sometimes you're not really going to get respected by your wife.
Yeah.
And when I thought
we just talked about it yesterday because I do that.
Of what he's going to be tolerant of. Like,
well, and then he's going to pick someone who's not, and like that's not what you want as a mom.
Right. And so I went.
That's a great point.
Okay, I never thought about it like thinking of someday I'm modeling what my son is going to look for in a wife.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, I think if there's one thing I've done with my kids, I tell them all the time when I mess up. I laugh at my mess ups. I am the one who says, like, I jacked that up. I totally messed that up. And one time I was really frustrated when Brinley was a teenager. And I'm like, I will do the wrong thing right now.
Yeah.
So I need you to give me 5 minutes and I'm going to think about it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to need a lot of grace because I might even mess it up when I come back.
Yeah.
But I even got to a point of knowing I'm just going to apologize on the front end because I'm hot right now and I can feel it.
Yeah.
So I kind of loved like as a teenager just going, I'm so much more like as my kids were teenagers, I'm so much more aware of myself and like what's happening in me, that I can start to acknowledge that to them. Because when I was raising littles, I was just like in survival mode.
Totally.
So, but I would say going back to like Brian and I and figuring it out, like we still have mess ups all the time because we live in a busy world where there just isn't effective, perfect communication. And so a lot of it is just that. We haven't been able to communicate well, our needs, what's going on for us, and that can a lot of times. So, but I will circle back to one other thing too. Brian is super expressive. And so I would be having a conversation and he may not even know. He definitely doesn't know we do it. And I'm like, you're checked out. You just like rolled your eyes, or you like, you know, I could see body language. And so then like, you're not, why am I even going to talk? And then I would want to leave and he would say like, well, you're just going to walk away, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, well,
so it's like
So it was we found, honestly, when cell phones came along and text messaging, I told him, and I didn't even know how to put it into words, but I was like, text messaging has changed our relationship. And he's like, that's sad. And I was like, well, no.
Like for the good?
For the good.
We actually,
it wasn't like, we weren't triggering each other, or I could say something based off of the in person. And
so you weren't texting him, he's an Ashley.
No, but sometimes it was frustrating, but
you'll have to tell that story.
Yeah. So
we communicate most of our fights and arguments when we cannot agree. If we walk away and text each other, that's like how we resolve most things. That is so interesting. Yes, but I am Brian. I'm a passionate Italian.
Yep.
So I do all the things you said.
Yep.
And so that's so interesting. So I need to maybe just text first. Like be more proactive about it.
And you have to know, I mean, anything.
Because we're going back and forth about the triggers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like he'll do something and then I want to fight about it, and now as the kids are older, I feel like they're always around, or like when they're younger, they like weren't paying attention. Now, I don't know if you guys ever felt like that or feel like that now, but I feel like they're always watching. I feel like I have an audience 24/7.
Oh, 100%.
Whereas when they were little, they weren't like picking up on what was going on.
They were playing.
You know, like I said something yesterday and they're like, why'd you say that? Like, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they heard everything. Yeah. So it's like sometimes like, I think with the audience, you almost act like it's harder to get to the root because you're trying to like not say it in front of them, but then you're like missing it, and then you're misunderstanding each other, and then you're more annoyed. So maybe I could just send a text like you did.
Yeah. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work 100% of the time. Like,
no, but we're more effective.
I'm like, but it can be.
Well, if you're going to do Ashley.
And no, like, if that doesn't work for you, don't you, like anything we say here, I feel like.
Yeah, no, I just think that one would work for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the most of the time, that's where we resolve is through text. Even when we were dating once, I remember it was like our first disagreement, and then I texted my why. But I may be more honest about my why, because I am like not the best. You would disagree, but to Kyle, I'm pretty open to you, but I'm not the best at like saying the true root. Like I don't like being vulnerable.
Yeah.
And like saying like this upset me because.
Right.
You know, that's like harder than to just act like annoyed. Yeah. But to say like the why, you know, is harder. So in a text, I would be more vulnerable.
Well, and the majority are women listeners, but as women, we have to know like what's really going on for us.
Yeah.
Because they're never going to get it.
No.
And it's like sometimes I didn't even know. And then I was like, if I don't even know what's going on, I think it's, you know, the laundry or the whatever. And it's like, no.
Never. And then you're arguing about the wrong thing.
3 layers deeper.
Yeah.
But I had to start doing the work of figuring out what is it really.
Like what's really going on that you're upset about.
Yeah. What's really going on for me. And we've found recently like helpful tools on the emotions. Like, they say there's 8 core emotions, and emotions aren't bad or good. They're neutral, like they're to protect us, to help us survive. But it's like fear, anger, guilt, shame, joy is one of them. Like, but a lot of times for me, it's like fear. So it's actually this. I'm worried about something else. There's a fear triggered about this, and he doesn't get that, and if he did, it probably would be like such a softer conversation.
Totally.
Yeah. And it would probably go up on the number scale too for you again.
Yeah.
Taking it back to that. If it was something that's more of a major thing for you, it would be like a 7, where it'd be like a 2 for him.
Yeah.
That's such a good point. I was just thinking about that, where like our biggest fight sometimes is the house, like condition of the house, and I'll just be like, it's just a disaster. And he's like, why do you care? Like, who cares if it's a disaster? And for me, it's triggering the shame of like, I'm not a good mom, I'm not a good wife, I
can't keep it all together.
Right. But I've never really communicated that in that way. Like, it was just a
right. Like when the house is a mess, I feel like I'm not doing a good job as a mom.
I feel
then he would be like, oh, I don't want you to feel like that.
Yeah.
And they
that's
actually
good for kids too, to teach them like what are you really feeling right now.
Yeah, because sometimes maybe we minimize that.
Yeah.
And it could be something for them that's a 10.
It's
that I'm like, this is dumb.
Yeah.
This is like, Maddie, if we change the schedule at all, it's a 10 for her. And I'm like, this is dumb.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe there's a reason why that's triggering. Maybe I could be more patient about that. Because I'm like, you gotta learn to roll.
Yeah.
But it might trigger like an unprepared, because she likes, I don't know. That's really interesting for so many things.
Well, I think with the root with her, let's find out why she always has to have it be so in control. Maybe there's something she's feeling out of control about, so she tries to control. You know
everything,
what I mean?
yeah.
You never know.
Yeah. Good point. What do you think the hardest looking, now Cheri's kids are both out of the house now, right?
Yes.
They're
sophomore in college and then graduate of college. So
what do you think from getting married to now having the kids? Would have been your hardest
time period?
Marriage wise? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like, it's all hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
It's all hard. It's just different hards. And
Yeah.
I'm seeing like friends who are a season ahead of me. It's just different hards. I mean, I think when you're raising the littles, it's a lot more physically hard.
Yeah.
Tired,
like the
mostly.
tired and just like they're in your stuff and on your body like all the time. And yes. So that part I feel like is physically hard. And then we had a hard time with communication because like the kids are constantly interrupting and stuff like that. So, and then like high school can just be more, emotionally hard because the things are heavier and weightier. And I know I had a lot of like stress that I put on myself because I was thinking I've got to get everything done by the time they're 18. You know, you hear that like you only have 18
I feel
summers
like that.
with them.
Yeah.
And so I felt such a pressure of I have to do everything. To every mom right now, I love to literally say like, don't believe that lie. Like that is so much pressure. You have every day with your kids, like
Forever.
Forever or never. Like we're not guaranteed tomorrow.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's like if you think you're planning, you know, till they're 18 and you're like, all right, I'm going to have this great track. And you know, Lincoln's life was such just like a wake up call. There are things, tragedies happening every single day to be that wake up call of, and I honestly love, we need that. I love going to funerals.
Yeah, it makes
now
you really,
because it gives you that constant.
We said that. It's like a ground, like, it really brings you back to what's important.
What matters. Yeah. And we need those. And so, they constantly remind me in the tragedies that happen like near or far, like, let's be kinder to people. We don't know what anyone is really going behind the scenes. So it's just different kinds of hard. And we have to, and I think, I also think as a parent, maybe it can get a little bit easier at times, but then my parent heart was burdened for what my kids were. They were really starting to feel like the weight of things, and I felt less in control. It's like you don't know everything that's going on at school, or kind of what they're just processing. Exactly, that's the perfect word. So, but I also just think it's why I would say this. It's what you make of it. And every season can be sweet and every season can be hard. Like they can be both. I hate when people say stuff like, oh my gosh, oh, the toddler years, or oh, the teenage years. And they just speak these horrific things of like doom and gloom. And honestly, I loved every single season. Now there were parts like I wouldn't love to go back to, but there was greatness in it. And then I think Brian and I definitely had like the end in mind a while. Like, okay, we know that there's going to be an empty nest and we want to be thriving in that.
Yeah.
And so we had some boundaries on the kids sometimes of, hey, I know like you want to do this. Like Dad and I are actually, and I would just flat out tell them, hey, like literally some of the divorce rates are super bad. We want to be married. Yeah. Like, like at the empty nest, we want to be married. Our goal is like having all the kids, all the grandkids, everybody together at the beach house type thing.
Yeah, I love that.
And so we're fighting for that end in mind. So sorry, right now you're not a priority, but like you really are in the big picture.
Oh, I think that's like such a big point.
Yeah, I love that.
So I even battle with sometimes like at night, like Broxton likes me to, always wants me to lay with him, but it's at the same time that Kyle's just getting home because they were at sports. And I'm like, I'll lay with you for a minute, but I need to go see Dad. And I'm always like, it's important for him to know I'm going to choose Dad over you, but it's still hard to do.
And it's still for you.
It is for you because they need, my parents always chose each other.
Yeah.
Like it was never a question. It was always mom and dad first, mom and dad first. And it gave me security knowing that they had each other first. But like for me with the kids so busy, like somebody was telling me when the kids start driving, you hardly see them because you don't, Regina, because she's such a great mom. She was telling me how she goes to dinner, took Talon to ice cream. And I was like, oh, that's cute. Tell me about that. But she's like, when they drive, but she's so cute, like so about spending time and doing those things.
Yeah.
And she's like, when they drive, you never see them. I'm like, I feel like I never see my kids now. Like I can't imagine less. But it's like so hard. So when they're home and Kyle's home, there's only like an hour. But it's 9 to 10. So I feel like I haven't really seen the kids all day, haven't really seen Kyle all day, and I don't like...
Yeah, like which one do you pick?
Which one do you pick?
Yeah.
Because again, they're only here 18 years. I have forever with him.
Yep. Yes, which is totally, and I was like that, and it's funny when the kids come home at college, I do tell Brian, I'm like, I'm sorry, you're just taking a back seat.
Yeah,
like,
well, you're only getting like...
Yeah, but he was even like, it hurts because we have like a lot of time together, and then they're home, and he's just like, I still want to be picked.
Yeah.
And I think it helped as much as we can communicate. Like there are things we know that we know, but they don't know. We don't verbalize it.
Yeah,
so like we
especially
even saying to Brian of, hey, like I'm really sorry, but I'm just going to get immersed in the kids and I'm sorry because I know it's going to happen. But it helps him to have like a heads up and to not feel like he's getting neglected.
And to not feel like it's just happening. It's like a conscious decision that, hey, I'm still thinking about you, but I'm only getting this small time with them. Yeah, I love that.
And it's just a season, like, you know, I'm not, and then even like on the daily things of it might be like, okay, kids, like let's have a family meeting because I feel like there's 1 hour of time and here's the facts. Like, I want to be with you. Like, I want that quality time with you. And they might be like, 10 minutes is good. Like, it's kind of a lot if you're wanting to spend. Sometimes they feel the pressure of quality time.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's quality.
Yeah.
So sometimes they want it, sometimes they don't. And sometimes it's like, we could all do something together or just, I don't know. It's important to like talk it all up. And Kyle might be like, hey, I'm good with like, if we have 2 dedicated nights, spend the other. So I don't know. Talk it.
Get a plan. Yeah.
And talk about it.
And see what's working and retalk it and be.
I love that.
Yeah, I like that too. You forget it's that easy.
I'm a huge on like I love the start of a month, the start of a year, the start of a week because I'm just like it's literally any new start of how can I do this differently. Like I'm constantly, this isn't working for us. And I thought, I would say like, I would love telling the kids, I thought this was going to work. This is not how it looked. Like, this is what Pinterest told me to do. And it's not working.
Yeah, for us. Yeah.
But it's cool because it's teaching them, hey, you can stop and pivot at any time and change the plan.
And that mom is navigating this too. And I don't have all the answers. So you go and navigate it. Just like I'm navigating it. Like, I think that's an important lesson because I always thought my mom knew everything.
I still feel like your mom knows everything.
She kind of does.
I love her so much. I'm all, doesn't Julia need to take the kids to West Bank? She's all, you know, like I love her so much. I love her mom so much.
She knows a lot. But
She's the best.
But you're right. She was navigating it.
She was
Yeah.
navigating it the
No.
same way we are now. So
Yeah, and so it's important to let the kids know. And then when they mess up, they won't be as ashamed or trying to be perfect. Because, like, oh, if mom can mess up and change things, so can I.
Yeah. Right. And it keeps away from the black and white, like, I did this wrong, so it must be bad. It's like, no, we're, you know.
Right. And I'm like, and I'm okay if for your family you decide this was the biggest mistake we ever made raising you and you decide to do something different.
Yeah.
Then you do, because that's why we're doing some of what we're doing, because we're trying to make up for,
Yeah.
We all are, I think, always. But, and then there's good and bad. You don't always know why you're the way you are because of various conclusions you draw from weird things.
And the thing I think that our kids have taught us too is that, like, when Bennett went away to college, it's like such a great experience to like grow and learn, but it was so interesting for him to come back. And I feel like we had exposed him to a ton, but they're still in some bubble of familiarity, and college took like all of that away, and he just saw all this new stuff, and he would come back, and it was interesting to hear him talk to Brinley about like, oh man, you have no idea. Like, we have amazing parents, because
he'd
like,
say that?
he was like,
I love
there
that.
are people that like say like, oh yeah, my parents are really nice, or like, oh, I like to hang out with my parents, but sometimes they're saying that because that's like the thing they think they're supposed to say. And he goes, they're actually just going to hang out with their parents because they want their parents to take them shopping. Or they're just going to hang out with their parents because they drink and eat a bunch and like they just want stuff.
Yeah.
He's like, and he's like, you'll see. And it was so cute to hear that kind of stuff. He goes, I actually like hanging around you, and I think you add value to like me and my friends. And so I was just like, oh, but
that is so cool.
But I think some of it is because we always have tried to keep it real. Like,
I love that about you guys.
Yeah.
It's so endearing.
Like, mainly because at a really young, impressionable, like married and first having kids, too many people were holding me to a standard that they weren't even living themselves. Like, I kind of thought they were doing stuff, and then I'm like, oh wait, you're not actually. One of the examples was somebody said my kid's sleeping through the night, and I'm thinking, I'm a terrible mom. My kid's not sleeping through the night. I'm reading more books. I'm doing more. And their version of sleeping through the night was that they fed the kid at 10, and then they just woke up for one feeding at 2, and then they were up at 5. I'm like, that is not sleeping through the night.
Yeah, my night is like 9 to 9.
Yeah.
You're beating yourself up over what you.
Yeah, that's like an example for anything.
That's what people mean.
Yes.
You know? And
yes.
Yeah, or, you know, you hear people are like eating a family meal, and I was just like, I was trying to hold, and my husband coached, and we had our kids in like some sports, not even so many, but just
you guys were good about like balancing, but still,
we did not have family dinners, and so I was like,
See, we don't, and I feel like I'm like a bad mom because of that. Like, I'm like, we should be having a family dinner, but like, there's just no physical way to do it unless it's like, there's just not, because Ben's not home yet. Like, he doesn't get home until he literally comes home and changes and leaves.
Yeah.
So like, he's like you guys do, but Kyle's off earlier, so you're able to do it at 4, where it's like Ben, like most of the time Ben, or he'll have his clothes and he'll go straight to, you know, and so it's like.
But at the same token, my version of family meal is her sleeping through the night.
Yeah.
It's not always like a prayer and everyone is talking about their day.
Yeah.
What it might sound like when I say we're eating at 4.
Yeah.
Some days
It's
everyone
in a crock pot,
comes in.
everyone just grabs it.
Yeah, and like Broxton ate while the girls are still getting ready.
Yeah.
So like everyone ate at 4.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean we're sitting at the table
See,
together.
and I'm thinking it's a
Doing
family
devotion.
meal.
Yeah.
We don't have a family meal.
Yeah.
Chicken nuggies again, you bastards. You know.
No,
Like,
and that's when you were saying that, I'm thinking, oh no, it's like we eat at 4.
Yeah.
We eat at 4. Dinner is served at 4. That means it is eaten between 4 and 4:45. Sometimes everybody's eating it at different times.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's really, I love that.
See, but you were doing the through the night maybe.
But, yes.
And some nights, like, if everyone's ready at the same time, we'll sit. But, like, still the TV's on. The prayer is while I'm still scooping. Dear God, thank you for this food. And it's not what it is.
Yeah.
But isn't that funny how it
Yeah.
could sound like it's this family meal?
Yeah.
And it's exactly, everyone's eating between 4 and 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I put a ton of pressure on myself for all those things. But again, we didn't really ever have a family meal growing up because my brother was older, and I don't know, since my dad passed, like, it's weird how get emotional, but perspective changes. It's like a gift, though.
Yeah.
It's like you only remember good.
Yeah.
There's so many things a year ago I would have said bothered me that today
matter now.
are the best blessings, you know?
Yeah.
You just like, it's like the final of it, and you're like, so many things were the best things ever, that maybe like when you're raising your family, you're putting these pressures on yourself of like, we didn't have a family meal, Susie did.
Yep.
So maybe I did that like with my parents of like, we didn't have this typical like family unit like everybody said, but at the same token, my parents sustained a lot of what other families didn't.
Right.
You know, because they were focused on what worked for them.
Yeah.
They never really cared, you know, what worked for everybody else.
That's good. We have a house guest right now, my sister, and so I'm feeling, and she's amazing. She's not judging at all, but I'm feeling like judged.
Yep.
Like, cause we have a lot of boys and there's a lot of yelling, and we just have a lot. I'm a yeller. It's not the best, but it's like they're down there, so I'm yelling to get their attention. I'm yelling because they didn't listen the first 4 times. So there's a lot of yelling, and so I do feel like, you know how there's like those really calm, peaceful houses? I don't feel like our house is that. It's very like a little like
High
we're
energy.
rushing. There's a lot of energy. There's kids fighting. Like Bear and Foxel are wrestling. It's like, and I'm feeling like she's like, oh gosh, they're.
Who has a calm, peaceful house though?
I just feel like it's like the wheels are off.
Yes,
you know?
I don't know of anyone with a calm, peaceful house.
So I'm like stressing, feeling like she's judging me, and
I think we
know
all do
she's
that.
not, but it's like
Yeah,
my
you're
own
all
internal
doing
pressure
Yeah.
that I'm like, oh gosh. And like Ben is sometimes grouchy because he's tired, or like this weekend we had a baseball tournament, and so whenever there's like a long sports weekend, it doesn't set him off for the week on a good foot.
Right. Yeah.
Because
He needs downtime.
he needs
I need
downtime.
downtime.
Sundays are like his thing. He does not like anything going on Sundays. He likes to recoup, get all his little jobs done, and like then he starts the week in a really good place. Well, like when there's 3 baseball games, it's crazy. So I feel like it's kind of a weird, it's one of those weeks.
Oh, yeah.
So he's already grouchy, and it's Tuesday, and I'm like, she's judging me. She thinks Ben's a jerk. That's why I called him an Ashley.
Can you tell everyone what happened with the Ashley?
Don't do this, but I texted him because we can't fight because our sister's here. So normally I would just tell him, like, you're being a jerk. But he was being so rude and to the kids in front of her, and then I'm going, well, she's like wondering, why are you raising my son if you're talking to kids like this? So he was.
Well, that is an interesting dynamic
Yeah.
too. I forget about that.
So I'm thinking, she's like, oh gosh, this is who my son's living with. And so he was leaving for sports, and the kids weren't getting ready in time. And so then he told Fox he could go with him. Fox likes to tag along. Well, then he's like, no, you're not tagging along. So Fox was screaming and crying, and I was so mad. So I texted him, you're an asshole. And it autocorrected to Ashley. And so he said, who's Ashley? But it was just funny. It kind of made it light, and then we weren't mad anymore. So it was kind of a blessing.
Yep. See, the text works again.
The text
The
again.
text, yeah.
Yeah.
But don't text your husband that. That wasn't a good thing, but we couldn't say it. Normally I'm very direct. I would say it, but because she was there and he was leaving, I couldn't say it, so I texted him, but yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. But anyways, no, but the pressure, I'm feeling like it's crazy how when you add the dynamic of pressure in any capacity, it makes things so much worse.
Oh,
Instead of just being, this is it, you know?
Right.
Well, I think so many people, again, I'm so thankful we didn't have social media when I was raising the babies. Because like the sleeping through the night and the crawling and the walking, I think as a new mom, you're so worried you're doing, I think any mom is worried they're
Or
doing
even
it
now,
right.
teenagers, they're the best at sports. They're signed to this college. It's like
you're
it never
right.
ends.
You're right.
Or like these kids, like my freshman didn't go to homecoming this year, and I was so worked up. All these kids are going to homecoming,
Yeah.
and I'm like, you don't want to go to homecoming? He's like, no. And I'm like, well, why not? Well, what about your friends? Are they going to homecoming? Why don't you get a big group together? And I was like putting all this pressure for him to go to homecoming because I'm seeing all these kids going to homecoming, and I'm like feeling like I'm not
You're
a
missing
good.
it. Yeah.
I'm not a good mom because he's not going to homecoming.
He only has 4 years of homecoming. And
Yeah.
And he doesn't care that he's not going,
Yeah.
and I'm caring. And so it's like, I don't
Yeah.
feel like it even ends with the young. It's
Yeah.
even more now. I
Yeah.
feel like it's more now.
Yeah.
If you could go back,
Yeah.
I loved it, to any like to teenage or even like preteen parenting, what advice would you give yourself?
So I'm since raising my kids through the teenage years, I'm a life coach now, and I got a certification, and it taught me so much about the power of asking questions, and not drill sergeant interrogation questions of firing squad where we're trying to get all the information, but more of like, hey, what's going on? Or like, what's behind that? Or you seem like you seem kind of angry. What's like, is something going on? Versus just like, hey, like, I don't need that attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just figuring out. And then I think like the secondary part of that is that you have to have margin in your life to be able to slow down enough to like see what's going on and to ask the right questions. And just, I think we are in such a busy pace that there is no room for grace because we got somewhere to go, and we got like, there's none of that margin to stop and go, wait, something is going on here and we need to address this, or that you can address it before it gets too much to handle. So just
I love that, because I do think like there's no time for a meltdown right now. We got to get to practice. And it's like you're missing that opportunity to work through a problem.
Yeah.
Like something's going on and you're missing that opportunity to address it, and like it's gonna just grow.
Right.
Because you got to get to the next thing.
And I do think, since we brought up like family meals, like there was such value in that, of like sitting at the table and having eyeball to eyeball conversations, and getting deeper and being like in a safe environment and getting deeper. And you weren't typically rushed, because back in the day, it's like you weren't, but I think that space is still so vital. So I would say like whoever you are married to, whenever you need to make that time. It doesn't matter when it is. Like Brian was like, why do you always like do breakfast for the kids? Because I would make the kids a really good breakfast. And I said, because we don't do a really good dinner. Yeah. I'm not a great cook. I stress over managing all that stuff, but I can do a really killer breakfast, and it makes me feel so good to send the kids off with a good breakfast. Like that was just my thing. What worked for me. And he was like, we were honestly arguing, because he's like, I grew up with a bowl of cereal. I'm like, but this isn't about like our kids being entitled. It just makes me feel good that in the morning, like
you're setting them off
well. The other thing was like, I tried for our car time to be really important, because when I was beating myself up about not having good like dinner time, it was like the car time. Yeah. The car time is where we are traveling to and from school, where I have them, and it's and it's just like, and then also when they get off of school, it's like they need to unplug. So that a lot of times they can't be asked important questions. They are so like wound up and triggered. That is where I was like, this is where I will be the most fun mom. We listen to like fun music, or just like something, or I'd have, I don't know, I'd do different things. We'd stop for ice cream, whatever. That was a lot of time. This is a time to be really fun, because they're still super triggered, or we'll go home and we'll veg and watch some show. Like, just short, but it was like, yep, let's do it. And let's like unwind together. And so
I like that.
Well, and I think that's something too I was thinking about this morning, was going back to Julia again, because it always goes back to Julia, but I remembered when I saw her at Squid Ink that day, it wasn't about always how much time, it's just in the quality time that you give, meaning like you said, sometimes 10 minutes is enough, and we always have 10 minutes. You know, like Broxton really likes me to watch a show with him at the end of the day, and so does Kyle, and they have this like argument about who's getting their back scratched. It's like a whole thing. You would think it's real funny, because whoever I'm laying with gets some scratching, and they fight about it. But when I do get a little bit of time with him, especially the nights he doesn't have sports, I wake up and I feel more like calm. Like, I did it. And I remember when the kids were little, they say sometimes when they won't go to sleep, it's because they didn't get enough time with you. Mm-hmm. So, like, I could always tell when my kids went right to bed, they were fulfilled. They got what they needed from me. And then when the times when maybe they came out, they just need a little bit more. They didn't get enough time with you that day for whatever reason. Because sometimes when you have 3 little ones, you might be with them all day, but I'm not interacting with them as much because they're playing with each other and all the things. So I remembered if I would give them a little bit one-on-one attention before bed, they would go right to bed. They wouldn't come out. They wouldn't. It was easy. Right. And so I remember, like with Broxton too, sometimes he just needs that 10 minutes one-on-one time. And it's the worst because it's always at bedtime where they all want to talk to me.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the time I don't want to talk. Yes. Like I am done talking.
Yeah, Ken comes in like 5 times and Ben gets so done with her. But it's like, I think she's trying to
get her time in. Mm-hmm. It's like something about that end of the night where they're more like relaxed and ready. And that's the one thing about Sundays, even though my whole family will argue about the family movie. We do the family movie every Sunday night. And it's like, sometimes we'll go down to a show. But it's like I start my week off feeling like everybody's cup's a little fed. Like I got to have a little one-on-one time without the phones. But the phones, like throwing that into the equation these days, how did you kind of manage that? Electronics were a thing.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, they definitely weren't as bad, meaning they didn't start as young.
Right.
But I was just really honest of because it started with TV. Like somebody said, like their kid had a TV in the room, and I was like, I told my kid, like Bennett was saying, he gets a TV in his room, and I go, and I totally could give you a TV in your room, except that I know that then you would go in the room a lot to watch the TV, and selfishly, like I love having you around. Like I like your presence and I like you out here. So it kind of started with that. We're in a home right now that has a basement, and somebody's like, oh, the basements are great, but you'll never get the kids because the kids' rooms are down there. They were like, you'll never get the kids to come upstairs. I'm like, oh, I know how to get the kids to come upstairs. If they're not allowed to have their phones down there, they won't be down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they weren't allowed to bring their phones downstairs.
Yeah. So they weren't allowed to have, And
so they stayed upstairs. They never slept by their phone or anything.
No.
I love that.
Yeah.
What do you think that's one of your best things you did?
For sure.
I would think that.
And then I think kids can accept roles when we're telling them the why. And I know there's times you can't tell them the why. But for me, I'm just like, one of my biggest fears is that you're going to see something on that phone that is going to make you feel less than.
Yeah.
You're going to see something on the phone that's going to make you not live in this moment where we're having fun because you're going to think, oh, they're doing that and I just got left out. And I just like, I want to have some time where you can know, like, and just be happy right where you're at.
Yeah.
Like, and I think they can get that because they know. And so
you're not just being mean. It's like it's out of a loving place.
Yeah, and I would say like, hey, there might be a time where yes, I'm just being controlling. Like like and I'm just gonna take it. And I do have that right. But like in this moment, I want you to know really what's driving my control of the phone is I'm trying to protect you because I've just heard like I hear stuff and then I can't unknow that for you. Mm-hmm. And so I think if they know that, like they do believe it because it's like it's coming from a genuine place and they get it. So it just makes it doesn't always make it easy. I mean, sometimes we're fighting, but when we would go on vacation, I would put a passcode on, like a lock screen thing. So it was like, and then
so they couldn't use their phones while you. Or they had to come like put it and I'm like, okay, you've helped out, you've been engaged with the cousins, like all this stuff, like you can have it. I like that.
I think the hugest thing is to have a conversation because they have reasons like why they want it that are sometimes good, or it just gets them more engaged if you can have a conversation. So I know one time Brinley was 18, but she was still living at home. And so I'm like, all right, it was kind of big deal and said, I really think I need to your phone away from this. But like, you're 18.
Yeah.
But I said, and I know like you kind of have, but I still pay for that phone. And so that's why I'm like, is that fair? And she was like, yes. And knew, but like, you have to
give them an opportunity
and to respect them.
Yes,
I love
and
that.
respect, like, when is the time when you could be off your phone? Because I just want a boundary where you can be unplugged. So you decide. You kind of pick the time, like, and it's not going to be 3:00 in the morning. That doesn't count. Like, let's have a conversation here. But sometimes they can come up with their own boundaries, or they might say, it's not good for me to be on it right after school. Like, you just know that's when a lot of stuff is going down, so I'll pick that time.
Yeah. Yeah, to get away from it.
And then I say, blame me. Say, oh my gosh, my mom's super, controlling about the phone. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, totally.
I'll be the bad
guy. And it gives them that break. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Well, I've heard of a lot of parents that like did something with their kids where they took it away, and then they were like, even Kennedy, I took it away once, and she was like, I'm kind of glad to not have it, because they don't know how to self-regulate. They're kids. So like, it's our job to not put that, like, it's our job to know better, because we know as adults we need to take a break sometimes.
Yes.
So it's our job to know, like, this isn't healthy for you, so
let me help you.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then they're actually grateful.
Yeah. And then typically what I say is, and so being fully transparent, I suck at this.
Yeah.
I'm on my phone all the time.
I am too.
And so I'm like, you can call me out and hold me accountable on when my time is. And we're not good. We have to help each other. So I love my husband when he talks to teams. There's a phrase he uses that's it's not so much a call out as a call up. Yeah. So it's like, I'm not like calling you out like you're in so much trouble, but it's like, let's live to a better standard for like ourselves. And we're not like, you're not in trouble, you're not getting shamed, but like, hey, this is something we agreed to. So a call up.
Yeah.
Sign me up. Sign me up for all the things.
Yeah, right?
I'm going to take notes.
I know. It's so good, huh?
So question though, in explaining things, I don't know about you guys, but for me, sometimes when I do want to have like conversations, Kyle maybe was raised in a family where there was limited conversations. It's no is no. I don't need to explain. So I wonder, Brian being Brian, was that ever hard? Was he ever like, why do we have to explain it? Like, just take the phone. Because like Kyle, sometimes I'm like, just talk to him. You don't, and he's like, no, they need to be mine. They need to be scared.
Yeah.
Like, and
I don't think that's necessarily wrong, because sometimes it's like we're too in our feelings these days.
Yes.
We're like, not everything's a negotiation. Not everything is a discussion. It's the end of it, and I'm done with it. And like, I feel like when it was a little more stricter, there was like less sensitive kids in a way, because they were able to just. My parents didn't care about my feelings, and I'm like, I'm not worse for it. Like, I'm like, you don't always, my feelings don't always matter, you know?
No,
in life they don't.
There's such a balance. Yes. Yeah. What I would say is, I think it's important for the kids to feel heard. Yeah. And so I will hear them, and then some of the times it was just like, I hear what you're saying, and I still disagree. And as the parent, like, I am taking the responsibility for this, and I get this. And that's, if you have something else, like, to add, like, now we're not going to. So there's things, and different kids are different. Like, some will, go back and forth and keep. But, and I would flat out say, like, if I feel you're abusing this, where you're just constantly trying to get your way, and like
there is a way to manipulate it a little.
Yes, if I feel you're manipulating, we're going to take this.
She can get you.
I'm all right, and then I'm all.
But it's just, I think it's super helpful when especially like preteens, teenagers. What I noticed is like at school, they have so little voice. Yeah. And so it is literally like teachers tell them where they're like scheduled, where to go, what to do, they just don't get much input. And so if we can be the person who is listening to them and they feel like they get heard, they will keep coming back.
Yeah, that's so good.
To talk things.
Just stop there. I gotta start over.
I know.
But you can always. You can start over.
Yeah. Tomorrow's like Wednesday. Midweek. Midweek start over. No, but I think not my mother-in-law, but Tana's mother-in-law, Boomer, her husband's mom, she is so good about that. And like, we all, my nieces and nephew, we all are with them all at the same time. And I've always noticed with her, their behavior is always different around her. And they're so good. And it's because she is so calm with them. Juju, yeah. Oh, yeah. They're so calm. She is so calm. And she's strict. She's not strict. Right. She's very black and white. These are the rules. She will even give them a spanking if she had to. But she's really big about letting them feel heard. Yeah. She's always like, I see you're excited. Like, she always turns it in a good way. Mm-hmm. Excited as in like jumping and beating everything, you know? She's like, I see you're excited. Now, Knox, tell Juju what is going on. And she's not going to sit and battle with it. Right. She, like, if he's going to, but she's like, okay. You know, but she's like, you just gotta let him feel heard, and she's so calm. Yeah. She's like, you just gotta let him feel heard, and I'll see the difference.
Forget it.
And like, even when Quincy was little, she's strong, but with Juju, she wouldn't show any of those behaviors because she felt heard. So she was like calm and like different. And I always see around Juju, and you probably even see, if you see Knox with Juju, he's literally chasing her everywhere. Like, he's obsessed with Juju, but it's not that it's a free-for-all. Yeah. Not at all. Right. But she's so good at always letting their even little things they have to say, hold on, they're saying something, you know, and we're like, oh yeah, you know, yeah. She's like, what did you say? That is a pretty car. But she's always like engaged and letting them feel heard.
We think that you have to be like strict, or like, or you can. And I would say like, I was probably the stricter parent, like, but yeah, I also listened more.
Yes, it's the listening.
And so Brian would be like, the kids always go to talk to you, and I'm like. But because I'm now, Brindley, when she was little, would flat out say like, "Well, I'll just ask Dad because I'll get it if I go." And I'm like,
Ken does that.
Oh yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah,
Kyle is no anything.
Yeah,
is a no.
So
kind of.
But it just like it builds. You have to build the relationship, and especially in those teenage years, like. I remember Brian was cute because one time Bennett told him something, or it was like, "You can't say that," or "You can't," and I want the conversation to keep going. We don't know anything except what they tell us. You know, once they're in school so long and it's like they're driving on their own, you really like are. And so I was like, I want our place to be so fun because we're going to find out when his friends come over, like just more stuff, or you can see the interaction. Mm-hmm. And so I told Bennett that. I was like, this can always be a place where your friends can come. We'll have a really good time. Like we're never going to embarrass you. Like, but like we do have standards here, and you know the phones are all going to be upstairs. And
so, did you do that when they had friends over?
Yeah, I mean now not, but yeah,
they're old now.
Yeah.
But you would. So if everybody came over, you would say, "Okay, everybody's phones are over here."
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Like they weren't allowed downstairs. Yep. And so it was just like upstairs. Yep. Put them on top of the thing.
That's cool though, and they probably didn't even care.
They don't.
Yeah.
And what's hilarious, Bennett just told me, he's like, Mom, it was the coolest thing. He was hanging out with his friends, and he said, we literally all just came in, put our phones on the counter. Now, this was like not at our house, but, and he goes, we talked for like 2 hours without any of us having our phone on us.
Because it was like a habit.
Yeah.
I love that.
Like, it was amazing to go, we don't, like, this is quality friend time.
So as a family, did you guys do that a lot? Like, I know the phone stayed upstairs, but like everybody put their phone away.
I mean,
busy. It's busy.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
And I would say like right now we don't have really great parameters. We talk about having them a lot. Even Brian and I. Like,
I was just gonna ask that. I wonder if that's hard. Like, without kids home, is it hard to still probably unplug? And because I unplug even family movie, like would Kyle and I always do a movie if the kids weren't home? Because you get kind of like, did that change a lot? Like some of your like
something I heard recently that was so good was like, rather than what you're not gonna do, focus on what you want to do. So it's like sometimes I'm thinking we have to do less phone time, and it's like that might be hard to curb sometimes. But I'm like, so why don't we just do like more outdoor time where we leave it? Or, you know, like you're not going to play pickleball with the phone in the pocket. Like you'll set it down. So let's go do that. Like,
I like that. What you are going to do, not what you're not going to do.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So
That's so interesting. Okay, I was gonna ask something else.
So many good.
Something you guys talked about with Brian in our class years ago was about like the text messaging and the leading on. Like I remember Brian said, if Cheri texts me, get home, wink wink. Like, and if that didn't happen that night, like that was disappointing.
Are you bringing up me?
Yeah, a friend of mine over here loves to get Ben riled up just for the sake of seeing him get excited. But she's like, I just say it to get him excited. Like, that's rude.
Well, no, not to like in a bad way. Like I want him
We're
to
talking
feel
about,
like I'm flirting, like sexy text.
Yes.
Yeah, but making promises isn't flirting.
I'm not trying to make a promise and not follow through. Things just happen. But like I do very much go out of my way to flirt with Ben.
Yeah.
So like if he's in the kitchen in the morning, I wake up, I'll go pat his butt or give him a little, attention.
What do you mean, a little
And
attention?
no, stop. We're not
No, I
going
am
there with
serious.
Cheri. We're not
No,
doing
I'm
it
dead
on the
serious.
episode. We want
What
her
do
to
you
be
mean?
able to
Aren't
share
your
this.
kids there? What kind of attention?
Oh, stop. So anyways,
No, I'm dead serious. You spank his butt and then what?
Or like when we were in Dallas, Fox, he had a Chuck E. Cheese. He was regressing in some potty training. He's 5, and it was like, why are you peeing your pants? You've been potty trained for 3 years. But he was playing Fortnite, and he didn't want to stop, so he would wet himself. And then it started like happening. So we said, if you don't have any accidents for 2 weeks, you can go somewhere. He saw YouTube about Chuck E. Cheese. He'd never been. He really wanted to go. So anyways, he earned it. So we were in Vegas last weekend, and so I texted Ben, hey, if you... Basically, they didn't have anything to do this day. I'm like, if you knock out the Chuck E. Cheese,
fine.
wink, wink. I sent some emojis of some things that might happen if you went to Chuck E. Cheese.
Got it.
They haven't happened yet, and so
That's what I'm saying. Wait, what?
it's called bait and switch.
yes,
So you just told a story about exactly what Crystal just
yeah,
said.
yes. We haven't had the opportunity. We've had a house guest. He's grouchy, and now I'm like, I'm not doing that. He's grouchy. I know, but
I have to side with you because
thank you.
If I had to come and like honor every single thing that I texted, I probably wouldn't be texting much.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It would cause me not to do it. Because sometimes it's like in the morning, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love it so much, like, or something.
Yeah.
And then I'm taking care of my elderly mother, and I can come home from that, and I'm like,
I'm not doing that.
Yes.
I'm just not in any space other than in my own head still right now. And so it just like,
Life happens. It's not that I'm
life
doing
happens.
it with the intention of not following through. It just kind of happens sometimes.
No, when we were in the hot tub, you were telling him all kinds of things,
No.
and you had no intention. You had no intention of following through. You said you just like to get him.
involved?
No, she just likes to see him get all hot and bothered. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is awkward. And like, she's like, I just like to tell him that in Tahoe. You were like,
no,
you know what?
sometimes if I want something, I'll be like, hey, like, I don't know.
What do you didn't want anything? You just wanted to see him get all worked
No,
up.
I like to flirt with him, and he likes it. But then sometimes it doesn't go according to plan. And like, exactly. And like, but I'm not going to
So
stop
your flirting is telling him what you're going to do to him and not doing it.
Stop it. That's so gross.
But that's the truth.
No, sometimes I'm just like, I love you so much and I miss you and let's get.
That's not. This is baloney. This is not what I'm talking about. But anyways, so you guys still make promises, and it's okay to not follow through.
Well,
Thank
I mean,
you.
he
We're having Sharon every week.
Yeah.
I mean,
He would probably still rather have the text message than not. The hope of it.
Probably, but here's the thing, like, you just like, you have to have a ton of grace in your intimacy, but at the same time, you can't have like all grace because like there does need to be times where you show up and it's like you're saying, my parents didn't care about my feelings. Like sometimes it doesn't need to be about like your physical, emotional feelings. Like, man, it's because I know that this is important. And honestly, in this season of life, there's never a good day. Like, where it's quiet, there's no interruptions.
I feel like it.
I just have had a complete self-care day and my body image is strong and
totally.
all the boxes just...
Sometimes you just got to do it because you know it's good for the marriage.
Yeah.
And for him.
And I will say, I wanted to say this earlier when Dana asked about advice. I'm thinking like still about that. But prayer is so, so, so important. Like it will there were times when I'm like, okay, Lord, here's where I'm at. I do not feel like intimate relations right now. I have no energy. And I was just like, I need help with a good attitude because I know this is important, but I just want to show up with a good attitude and literally.
Well, and it matters to them.
It matters. It's
not just doing the thing. It's like being in it. That's, I think, a hard thing for women. If we're not relaxed here, it's hard to relax.
Yeah. But
so
I
you would
say
pray to change your mood and make you do it.
Yes. Except what I would add on to that is I think that's kind of the Hail Mary last minute prayer.
Yeah.
And I would love to go back and pray over intimacy more. Because
you don't really pray for that.
On a daily basis.
Prayed for that ever once, never.
But I remember at the service, the sex talk service where Don had it years ago, one of the best services ever, that I still live by, has to be at least once a week, because of he shared how important it is from the man's eyes, whereas women just think it's something they need because they're animals. But really, it's how they feel loved, adored, needed, all the things.
Yeah.
But he talked about, one of the wives talked about that she would pray about it a lot. That she'd be in the mood and she'd be refreshed and it's not. And I forget about that.
Yeah.
Because we pray for all the other things, but we forget.
And I also think there are things that we have heard, especially in the church, in general, about how to meet a man's needs. And it's so then our mindset is, I have to do this. I'm supposed to do this.
Yeah.
And just that, that mindset is just messed up and trained into it. But, if it's I'm too tired, babe, I used to be I'm really tired, I need you to understand that, and then probably go do something else. But I was at the end of the day, if the kids were sick or if they needed something, I would have gone and had an hour-long conversation about what was melting my kid down. So how tired was...
Right, you can spare 10 minutes.
Yeah.
If that.
Yeah, I'm all 30 seconds.
Or to even say, you know what, babe, I don't feel like my body being touched right now because of how I physically feel.
Yeah.
And so, but I could pour into you on what a great husband I think you are, or how I've seen you be an amazing dad. And they could get those words of affirmation are just we are so in a box thinking it's got to look like this. And I wish someone would have explained more of that to me it doesn't it could be you pouring into his soul and building him up as a man, and you hold hands and he walks away going, I have the greatest wife on the planet who's meeting my needs.
Intimacy.
I want to be the best wife ever right now.
Yeah,
I'm driving it right now. I'm going to do it on top of his desk. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, Cheri.
She's going to test in that.
But I was thinking the other way, but I was thinking you don't realize how much intimacy isn't just sex.
Right.
It's making them feel like a man, you're
adored.
Yes.
And loved
Brian
and
even
cherished.
said one time, if you would just
Kyle loves when I hold his hand.
He was if you would just give me eye contact where I would know, I was kind of the most important thing to you right in that moment.
Well, last night after the Ashley, Ben came home and we went to bed and there was because, he was still being an Ashley in my mind. But it sounds bad, but I was freezing. So I was I'm going to snuggle up to him because I was really cold. But I made it seem like I was snuggling. And then it was we had a little snuggle session. There was nothing else. And then we went to bed. And then this morning he was oh, those snuggles were nice. And he was all excited about the snuggle. And I was and sometimes I don't even want to snuggle him because I think he's going to want to do it.
Yeah,
and
I think that's a thing.
I don't want him to get the green light.
No, they always think, I feel like that is a thing.
Yes.
Sometimes I'm scared to touch him at night because it sends the wrong message.
Yeah, and I don't want to do it. So
I don't want to do it. So
I'm
I'm
playing
do
dead.
it.
Good
night.
Yeah.
Love you.
Yeah,
See you there.
I'm all the show's about to end, so I pretend, And he's always are you asleep? I'm all, and meanwhile I'm all on my phone.
No, but it is a fear.
Yeah.
I think sometimes even kissing.
Yeah.
If I give him a kiss, he's oh, all right. And it's no, it's just a kiss.
Yeah.
But we can't be scared of it because of that either, because then we can communicate.
Yeah.
But I think little affections go a long way.
Yeah, I like that.
For sure.
A lot.
I'm into it.
Well, and you think of the messaging they receive, where if they were to come to you and be sometimes I just need you to snuggle me, they might be thought of as less of a man or that's not.
I would.
They're not going to say that.
Ben
the end of
But
the
they
day,
don't-
they do.
yeah.
I packed Brian off with like food. He was like going out early in the morning, and I'm like, oh, here, like I had some stuff, and I like gave it to him, and he literally was so excited about
That's
that, and it was just like out of the norm. So
Like,
But
you
we
were
do that
think-
for our kids.
But he
Yes.
was thinking, oh, she's thinking about me. It
Yeah.
like sent that message.
And I would just
love
say
that.
anything you can do to change something up where you
Yeah.
just notice them. It's like
Yeah.
I love that.
I love that too.
Oh, I know.
So many things to do.
I know.
I almost, again, I'm feeling like we have to have Sherry back.
Yes.
Oh, it's
Because
so good.
there's
that's
like 3 other topics. I really want to talk about the nutrition and life. Like, I think that's such a key thing for
Yeah.
women. But we already are
Past
so
time.
far in.
Dang it.
And then I want to talk a little bit more about how you raise the kids. So I guess we'll just
Yeah, we'll have to
you
have you back. If you will come back.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we were pretty.
You were good.
We were pretty appropriate.
Yeah.
Besides Ashley.
Guys, I'm not proud of it.
Well, and the real things that you tell him in his ear in the hot tub that you're not telling Sherry.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop
Uh-huh.
it. No.
And I'm like,
Sherry,
I'm sitting right here.
she's a liar. Let's pray for her. You know? She's a liar and it's not right. You know?
Oh. Okay. So,
for listening.
thanks, Sherry.
If you're really struggling, please reach out to a qualified professional, because that's not us,
We're just here to share our journey
and to make you laugh
and cry
and pick your nose.
and touch your boobs.
So good.
It was really good.
You don't realize how good you are. I don't think you get it.
I don't
it's
either.
Like,
Like you drop things and I just want to
and like
sit in
Dana
it.
doesn't get like that.
No,
very often.
Dana never gets like that.
Dana wanting to take notes is like this.
I
is
was like,
okay, like
no, I'm being so serious.
No.
Dana never gets to sit
No,
there.
I need to shut up.
Yeah.
I keep
No, I
talking.
love it.
It's so good.
No,
you don't
and there was
understand.
moments
You're
that I was
helping
like-
so many people.
It was like
Yeah.
stunning me. I couldn't, and I
I
always
know.
have stuff to say.
I know.
But I was like so in my thoughts that I was like, get out of it. You gotta think of
And-
something. But I was like processing all the things.
Yes.
And I never get like that, and I was
No,
getting like
never
that.
like
no
that.
one ever makes me want to change anything.
Yes, they don't.
Seriously.
goals.
Not
goals,
Not
none.
a goal. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm never like, I'm always like, I know more than that person.
Oh.
And like, no, it was
I know.
so good.
It was so good. I felt like that too. Like I want to be different after this.
Me too. I am going to be different.
Me too.
am too.
I am so
I
different.
don't know
There's
where
so
to
many
start.
things though. That's why I need the notes.
Yeah.
I like need to go back. There was like 3 big pivots.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I don't want to forget that. I don't want to forget that.
It was
It was
so
really good.
So good.
That's why I was like stuck. Like I
Yes.
was like I couldn't
Dumbfounded.
think because I was still in my head. Oh yeah, they could because I always can talk. I was like I can't even process right now because I was so lost in my thought process.
It was
So good.
amazing.